Hi, in this video we're going to be looking at some other angles and segments that have to do with circles. You'll notice some pictures, and the big thing is going to be to jot down the pictures, write down the examples, and you'll see that there are formulas that go with them. Okay, what you'll learn about in this lesson, different types of angles that are in circles and not in the center of the circle, and how you can come up with their measurements. Types of segments in circles. These segments can be parts of secants or parts of tangents, and again there will be formulas to figure out their measurements. We'll also find any other measurements that have to do with circles. Again, they mostly have to do with segments and angles. And we'll see why it is the way it is. You want to find out why angle and segment measurements are used in any type of circular structure. Okay, so again, make sure you jot down these examples because the pictures are what's important. You want to have an example in your notes because, for example, in this picture you can see that there's a chord, and it's not a diameter, it's not going through the center, and there's a secant, and they join right at a point that's on the circle, and you can see angle 1 and angle 2. Now what it says here is that the way that you can figure out what those angles are is inside that angle. Let me put a little marking on there. So if we're trying to figure out angle 1, if you look inside that angle, there's really only one arc there, and that's this 100-degree arc that's out here. You just take half of that, and that's how many degrees that angle would be. So angle 1 in this case would be 50 degrees. Angle 2, inside that angle there's also just one arc inside that angle, and so here's the angle, and there's only one arc inside that angle, and that arc is 260 degrees, and so that angle will be 1/2 of 260 degrees, so it would be 130 degrees. Of course that makes sense because angle 1 and angle 2, those are supplementary angles, so they should add up to 180. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. This time, this picture should be easy to remember because you can see that the angles, or the two chords, they cross inside the circle. And again, we're looking for angles, and what we want to find are the measurements of the two vertical angles. And so angle 1, notice that angle 1 is a vertical angle with this other angle, which again I'll draw. So angle 1 and this angle across from it, they're going to be the same. And what you do is you take these arcs that are out on the end, so you look where those two vertical angles are and look out to see what those arcs are, and you add those up. So in this case we'll go 30 plus 40, which is 70, and you're going to take half of 70, and so that's going to be 35. So again, make sure you write down this example so you can see that when the two chords crisscross inside the circle, that's how you do it. Now if we wanted to find angle 2, the easy way to do it would just be to go 180 minus 35, because again you can tell that they're supplementary angles, so that would add up to 145. But let's say we did it a different way. These two vertical angles, the way we would find out what that is we would again take the arcs and add those up and divide by 2. Now in this case we can't see any measurements here, and we really don't have any idea what they are. But we do know that together, since the other two add up to 70, we know that these two together have to add up to 360 minus 70, so they have to add up to 290. So we don't know exactly what they are, but we know that since the other two add up to 70, and 360 minus 70 is 290, it would have to be half of 290. Half of 290 is 145. Again, probably the easier way to be would be once you knew angle 1, then you just go 180 minus what you got for angle 1, and that would be an easier way to figure out that it was 145. Okay, so that's the first two. We've got two more pictures to take a look at. Okay, so notice this next picture. It looks sort of like the first picture we had. We have a tangent and a secant. The difference is, if you remember the one that was under number 1, when we looked inside the angle, there was only one arc that was inside that angle. The difference is that the angle is no longer on the circle. The angle is outside of the circle. And so now, if you look out inside the angle here, there are two arcs. There's this 160-degree arc, and there's this 40-degree arc. Okay, so that makes it a little bit different. There are two arcs there. So this one, what we're going to do is we're going to subtract, and I always like to say big divided or minus little divided by 2. Okay, we're going to take the bigger arc that's inside there minus the little arc and divide it by 2. Here's another way to say it. So we're going to take 1/2 of BC, which is the 160, minus the 40, and so that makes 120. And then we're going to take 1/2 of 120, and half of 120 is 60. But again, the other way I like to do it, big minus little, 160 minus 40 is 120, and again, divided by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. And that'll also get us 60. Okay, so anytime you have an angle that's outside of the circle and you look out inside that angle and you see two different arcs, you're going to go big minus little divided by 2. Now the nice thing is this fourth picture is going to be the same way. There's going to be two arcs that are inside the angle. So let me scroll down here. Okay, so this picture is a little bit different. Now the first one had a tangent and a secant. This one, they're both tangents. But like the last picture, there are two different arcs inside that angle. So here's the angle. There are two arcs. There's a big arc and there's a little arc. And so again, a good way to remember these is big minus little divided by 2. Okay, here's another way to say it. 1/2 arc BDC is 240 minus arc BC. Now it doesn't say what arc BC is, but together these two arcs make up the whole circle. So together they have to be 360. So it has to be 120 because 360 minus 240 is 120. So this arc has to be 120. So 240 minus 120. 240 minus 120 is 120, and half of 120 is 60 degrees. Okay, but again, my other way of doing it, big minus little, so 240 minus 120 is again 120 divided by 2, because dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. So that'll also get you 120 divided by 2 is 60. So again, the big thing, if you haven't wrote down the pictures yet, make sure you write them down so you can look at those 4 pictures. When you get a worksheet now, you can match up the picture with the picture on the worksheet, and you'll know which rule to use. Okay, good luck, and let us know if you have any questions.